I had a company get in touch with me and said, "Oh, we can get this judgment set aside." So bailiffs turned up here, and then I stopped paying, and they wouldn't even put me on a new rate moving forward.
Hello, welcome back to the Director First podcast. Today I'm being joined by another previous client of Director First that is going to share his experience, strength and hope about sort of what happened, how he got through the dreaded insolvency and how he is today. So Darren, first of all, mate, thank you for being brave, sticking your head above the parapet and sharing your experience with our listeners and viewers at Director First.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Top man. I mean, first of all, could you sort of tell me briefly, just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your business, before you had to make the dreaded phone call to me.
Okay, so my name's Darren Ward. I've owned a carpet and flooring company in Milton Keynes for 33 years. It's always been sort of nothing that's ever going to make me a millionaire, but it's always been a good business. Up until the dreaded COVID hit us, and then everything changed. Also, Brexit was a big problem for me because most carpets and flooring are made in Belgium. And when we came out of the EU, our prices shot up. And plus, straight away, they took away all our credit facilities. Anyone from England that was an independent carpet company then had to pay up front for everything. So that just changed the whole business completely overnight. And then obviously for Brexit, that was one thing. And then COVID, I was kind of closed for 7 months, got hardly any help from the government, but still had to pay all the bills, rent, rates, wages, and got myself in trouble. Took out the bounce back, which I didn't fully understand, and that put the company in massive trouble moving forward.
I mean, it's worth noting, like, you're not a business that's set up in the last few years. I think you was incorporated in 2006.
Yeah.
You know, they say most businesses don't last 5 years, but yours did. It got past that 5-year part. I mean, we're talking about a long-standing business here that's always paid tax, always paid its suppliers on time, and then bang, 20. I mean, we look at the last few years, mate. I mean, COVID's a distant memory for a lot of people now. It's the cost of living crisis. Mortgages have gone through the roof. People are putting off spending that money. But you've mentioned Brexit. We don't talk about that anymore, do we? Like the consequences of Brexit are still happening now. In fact, they're happening more so now than when the vote happened bloody all those years ago.
Yeah, especially in the flooring trade. I get all the reps coming in to see me, and they've just said that for England, it's been so difficult since Brexit. And then just last week, Carpetright has gone bust. The biggest retailer that's been going for over 25 years has now gone bust, which is...
I mean, that really does it. It paints the picture, doesn't it? I mean, with you... How did you feel? So what made you first realise that you're thinking, oh, right, maybe I need to reach out and pick the phone up to somebody about this?
Well, I had a lot of debts that were mounting up. I feel like I got treated really badly in the electric company that was dealing with my company. When I was due to go into a new contract, they called me and said, right, you'll be out of contract in like 3 weeks' time. Do you want to renew your contract with us? And I said, I do, but I want to shop around and see if there's any cheaper products out there or cheaper companies. Let's schedule an appointment for 2 weeks' time. They were supposed to call me, and we were going to renew the contracts. They didn't call. They've admitted they didn't call. They sent letters, admitted they sent them to the wrong address. And 3 months went by, and I just presumed that they'd renewed the contract. Then I got a bill for £7,000 saying that we've charged you 6 times the normal rate because you was out of contract. You owe us £7,000. So
the amount of contract rates are absolutely criminal.
Criminal, yeah, absolutely crazy. So I refused to pay it and went to court. I court, even though I thought that morally I, shouldn't have been charged that amount of money, especially when it was them that were supposed to call. They were supposed to send letters. They didn't do anything. I made 50 calls to them, were promised calls back, never happened. And then I stopped paying. And they wouldn't even put me on a new rate moving forward. So, it went on for about a year. And then I got hit with a £20,000 electric bill for 1 year's worth of electric.
And what was that before the madness? What would a typical year be for you guys?
About 6,000.
Right. You touched on something earlier that I think people are going to really identify with, and that was during the pandemic when most businesses got forced to shut. Yeah. If you was a worker, you was on furlough. A lot of people had. It was a cracking year that year, weren't it? Whether everyone was in the garden, sunning themselves, getting 80% of their wage. Yeah. But if you was a business owner, I remember in our business, at the end of March, I looked at the bank and thought, flipping heck, I've got X amount of months worth of money in it. Because I knew at the minute that country shut down and these bounce back loans came out, most people weren't going to go into liquidation. And sadly, that's where we make our money is actually placing businesses into liquidation. So it dawned on me, I thought, I'm not going to be able to take any more money out of this business. I've still got my mortgage. I've still got my kids to feed. I've still got this, that, and the other. And I think my furlough was, the average one was about 800 quid a month, wasn't it? Now, 800 quid a month doesn't go anywhere in Preston. So I know down south, what's that 800? People don't realise how hard small business owners had it. Because people think if you've got your own business, you're minted, don't they? They've got that conception that, he works for himself, he must be flying. And I think that hammered home to a lot of us just how poorly treated that we got felt by the government.
Yeah, it was really difficult, actually. I had a really small amount I was getting on furlough. I still had to pay my staff some money, but cover all of it. And then the biggest problem I had is I've got subcontractors, which are like my carpet fitters. Because they're self-employed, they didn't get hardly anything. So I had to kind of subsidise them as well. Even though I didn't really legally have to, I felt like I had to do something. They've been working for me for like 15, 16 years.
Yeah. Well, nobody thought it'd last that long, did they? No. It was... So how did you, when you first realised that, the business might need to take insolvency measures, sort of, how did that make you feel? What were the first,
Well, I was trying to fight it and not go down that route. And I was like robbing Peter to pay Paul every week. And then the final straw was with this electric company, I wasn't paying the court order. Because I couldn't afford the repayments. They wanted 10,000 up front and then like £2,000 a month, and I couldn't afford it. So bailiffs turned up here, threatened to take away all the stock, close the business, and that's when I contacted yourself on the back of that, really, because I was still trying to pay the bounce back loan payments. I was trying to pay all the debts that we had, and when the bailiffs came in here, I was kind of stuck. I couldn't do it.
And that, listen, nobody wants to pick up the phone to somebody like me. And I completely get that. It's because we're taught to think positively, aren't we? We're taught to, anything's possible, we can get out of it. But sometimes actually liquidation it's the last resort, but in many times it's the right resort, not just for you guys, but for the creditors as well. They can draw a line under the sand and, things move on. It was, but a lot of people, they don't wake up in the morning and think, oh God, I better make an inquiry now. They've been thinking about it for weeks and mainly months. What were your biggest fears going through your head back then?
One was, do I have any personal guarantees against anything? Because the overdraft, for instance, set up like in 2000. I couldn't remember if I put a personal guarantee or not. these bailiffs turning up really scared me. And then the banks seemed to keep telling me, yeah, we want to help you, we want to help you. But there wasn't any help. I was like, you keep want to help me. And they was like, yeah, we'll give you 6 months interest free on your bounce back loan. I said, well, that doesn't really help me. That's not going to get out of this trouble. What I need is some kind of consolidation loan so I can pay everything off and put it all up. Oh, no, we can't give you any more money. Oh, okay. So what do I do then? They're like, well, you just need to find a way to pay it.
Yeah, what a great idea. And that's it. Most people end up in these scenarios not by choice. It's like that there are no other options. There's no second door. They've tried absolutely everything, and then they're faced with the reality. Well, listen, if I don't do something, I mean, I've had it before. I mean, I remember, I share this a lot. I put a business into liquidation some years ago, which is how I got into this industry. And I remember having the HMRC enforcement officer who would turn up at this business. And I was that ill-educated. I didn't know what to do. My best thinking was, right, it's fucking embarrassing now, I put a code on the key so you couldn't just walk into the business. I didn't want to speak to this person because I was frightened to death of what they might do. And my best thinking was, right, I'll put a lock on the door so they can't come in. But it was horrible because you're dreading every single time someone's buzzing. You're dreading every time somebody's picking the phone up. And, and it seeps into your personal life as well, isn't it? I've always said, like, when you own your own business, I personally find it really hard to switch off at 5 o'clock, especially when the shit's hitting the fan. That makes it incredibly hard. It's almost at work I can be kept busy, but I'd go home and that's when the committee would start in my head. This is going to happen. That's going to happen. And I was scared to reach out to anybody because my pride was telling me, oh, well, you're a failure. It's, what are people going to think? But the reality was it was a change of market conditions, and there wasn't anything else I could have done, which is very similar to your scenario.
Yeah, I think one of the worst things is talking to anybody, like friends and family. They were always, oh, well, you'll sort it out. You always do.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But now I'm at this place where actually I can't sort it out. There's no, and I kept thinking to myself, oh, maybe I'll have a few really busy weeks. The cash flow will come in. I can start paying this and I can start paying that. But I was drowning. It was just getting worse and worse.
Where did you find me, mate? Was you referral? Did you see an advert? Where did you come across us?
I saw an advert on social media. I think it was Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's so sort of. Sorry, mate. Go on.
I called my because I'm very skeptical about these sort of things, because what happened before, when we first got this county court judgment with the electric company, I had a company get in touch with me and said, oh, we can get this judgment set aside. If you send £350, we'll get this dealt with. You won't have a CCJ. Sent them the money, never heard from them again, couldn't get in touch with them, got completely ripped off. So with this, I was like, right, I need to make sure that I check this out properly. So I got my accountant to check you out, basically.
Okay, good.
And make sure, and he said, look, all these insolvency companies are pretty much above board, but I'm going to go into company's house, run a check, I'm going to look at reviews. I'll make sure before you send them any money that we're, you've got somebody that's not just going to take your money and run away, because that was my other fear.
Yeah.
I could pay a loan out and then they go, oh, well, and then the bailiffs come back in and go, yeah, we still want your money.
Mate, let me say that, because in insolvency, I mean, I got a bit of an attack on Instagram the other day, and it was some guy basically saying to me, can you explain what the benefits are to working with an unlicensed, unregulated insolvency advisor? Basically just digging me. He was a dick, this guy, so I thought, right, okay, how do I answer this? And there are people out there that will give insolvency advice that aren't qualified to, and they don't work with licensed insolvency practitioners. What the benefit of working with someone like me is, and there are other firms like me that are really good, There are some absolute dogs in this industry, like every industry. But what we do, certainly Director First, is we go, right, what's the problem? Tell us everything. We'll walk you through your options as a director. We explain things in a really easy to understand manner, we hope. And our focus is helping you, the director, make the best decision, but also making you aware of, if you make this decision, what are the consequences to doing it personally. And what we know is, in the insolvency profession, a lot of our, I won't say competitors, I'll just say other people in the industry, they haven't got that bedside manner sort of thing that you need in this, because it's so flipping stressful. But I'm really glad that you actually took the time to do some digging, do some due diligence, and even if, you know, we're not for everybody, but whoever you use in insolvency, it's such a big decision. You've got to dig into it. Who is this person you're talking to? Who have they helped in the past? Where's their internet footprint? What do they look like on Companies House? What other businesses they've got to check out? Because one of my, when I ask people if they've responded to an advert, I mean, then people need more convincing, because anyone can put a good advert on Facebook or a good advert on Google or Instagram. Whereas if somebody's seen you through a referral, or they've been following you for months, and you know, that's a stronger lead, if you will, for me, because you've got that. They trust you a bit more. They've seen you around. They've heard of stuff you've done in the past. So I think that's a lesson for everybody here, Darren, is if you're going into liquidation, make sure you do your due diligence on the person that you're speaking to. And dear God, don't jump into bed with the first insolvency person that you find on the internet. What was it sort of, you know, God, what did you actually find out about us at Director First, and what actually made you think, you know what? Because here's the other thing is, once you respond to an advert like mine on social media, you are then going to get followed around by the algorithm, and every other bugger that does insolvency is going to be hitting you with adverts, and our phones are frightening, aren't they? I only have to think about something, and then on Facebook I'm getting bloody adverts for it. So what was you that sort of convinced you to make the decision and work with us?
I think one of the biggest for me was I could phone and you'd pick up the phone. Some of these, like commercial or bigger companies, you get put through to an operator, then you get put through to another department, then the person's not there, then you deal with somebody else, then they say they'll ring you back, then it's a different person, and by the time you've like had a week's worth of stuff, you spoke to 20 different people and you haven't got any answers.
Yeah.
With you guys, I could call you and I said, right, what do I do? Yeah, this, and this. And then I'm going to get my assistant to call you and go through everything. So there was only 2 people I spoke to.
And who was it? Was it Emily that you worked with?
Emily, yeah, amazing, really good.
How did you find Emily? Because she's like the hidden, she's not the face of the company, but she does a lot of great work in the background. How did you find her?
I don't know how that happened. I think you put me in touch with her.
Oh, sorry, mate. How did you find her as help? You know, what was your experience of working with Emily like?
Yeah, so good. Again, every time I rang, she'd pick up the phone. Even if she was busy, she'd answer and go, I'm just in the middle of a meeting. Give me 20 minutes, I'll call you back. And she'd call me back. That's one of my biggest things, because in business, if people don't call you back or they don't answer the phone, it's just a headache. And the good thing about her was she would say, if you have any concerns at all, even if it seems stupid to you, ring me and ask me. Because sometimes I think, I don't want to ask that, that's embarrassing, because it should be so obvious. But I still not sure, because this is not my field.
Yeah. Mate.
So I could say, yeah, do this. And I'd say, sound like it, you know, it's a bit of a stupid question. She goes, it doesn't matter. Whatever you need to ask, just so you've got peace of mind. And that was pretty.
Mate, exactly. And you know what? I'm going to pick on something you said there. You know, I found in business, and I'm no bloody Warren Buffett, right? But what I do is I was taught is if you just do what you say you're going to do, which isn't a big thing, is it really? If it's like I don't even have to exceed what I say, what I'm meant to do. But if I just do what I say I'm going to do, I'm going to stand apart from most people.
Yeah.
And I've always felt sort of more, you know, like in your industry, Darren. So I've been a property investor over the years. So from time to time, you know, whether it's carpets, plasterers, plumbers, roofers, all that type of, and the amount of people that you ring and they say they're going to be there and they don't turn up, or they don't answer the phone. And I just think to myself, and then after doing it a few years, you've got your core people. I know I'll ring Jack, the carpet man, and Jack will answer my phone and he will be there when he says he's going to be there. I know when I ring Chris and his dad, the builders, they'll do what they say that they're going to do. And you know, once you've got that trust with these people, I know they're more expensive than other people. I know that. But I'm willing to pay more because I know the people, I know they're going to do exactly what they say on the tin. And that's a lesson for us all, isn't it? Just do what you say you're going to do in the timescale that you are. And if there's a mess up, I mean, I made a real mistake with a woman the other week. She's got a director's loan account and I messed up on the calculation. And I rang her, I says, listen, you need to prepare for bankruptcy here. And then I had to look at it, and because something anyway, and I'd messed up the calculation. I had to ring her back 45 minutes later, and I says, I am so sorry for what I just told you, because it's not a bankruptcy. She's able to settle it, well, almost write this director's loan account off. But I'd made that mistake. You know, my mistake put the fear of God in this woman for 45 minutes. But listen, I still dropped the ball. But when you do that, you've got to own it, haven't you? And go, you know what? I've made a hash of this. Because nobody seems to do that nowadays. They don't admit when they've made a mistake.
Yeah, also I think it's about honouring things. So obviously my carpet company, as you know, but at the same time I reopened another company in the same building under a different name, just like, you know, the normal procedure. But all the customers that had bought flooring from me in the old company, I've honoured every single one. There's not one customer I've said, sorry, the company's gone bust, I'm keeping your money and this is a new company and off you go. Not like Carpetright have done. They've gone bust and they've kept everybody's money. Even though Happy Carpets, which are always the same estates as Carpetright, are owned by the same guy.
Yeah.
And he's now getting all the customers that he ripped off to go into his other company and buy it all again.
It's listen, you've only got one name, haven't you, in business? You know, and it takes a hell of a long time to build it, and it can be lost very, very quickly.
My customers realise that I've closed one business down and opened another, because all I've done, as far as they're concerned, is a slight name change.
Yeah, you've restructured, haven't you?
Yeah, so people have still got the confidence to come and buy here, rather than, oh, they went bust. Oh, there's a new company there. I'm not going to buy from that new company. As far as they're concerned, we're restructured. We've honoured all the sales, and we've still got a good name.
And I think that's important as well, Darren. Like when someone's been in business for as long as you have, it's your reputation. Okay, you have a company, but like for me, I obviously director first. I was involved with First Business Rescue, but it's Chris Worden they think of. You know, if there's an issue, they'll ring me, and I just because I'm a small company still, you know, and I'm not a big corporate beast like you. It's Darren that goes out there, and you've got a big list of contacts, no doubt, that you've built up since, well, for as long as you've been in the industry. So I think for smaller businesses, when they go through this process, as long as you're still heading that business up, your good name and reputation can be transferred.
Yeah, and also with all my suppliers, I'm still using now all the same suppliers. And I made sure I settled off everything I owed them on all the accounts. Then they changed it over to the new company name and gave me the same credit limits as I had before, because I wouldn't have been able to deal with them if I hadn't done it the right way. So I haven't took any carpet suppliers for any money. The only people that I haven't paid is the banks and the electric company. That's it.
You know, with regards to the liquidation process, Darren, you know, what was it like for you, mate? Can you walk us through it?
At the beginning, I was super nervous, obviously, because the bailiffs had been in here. And then I had to pay them some money when they first came in before the liquidation went through. So I had to pay them £5,000 in one go to stop them taking a stock. And then they set up a payment plan of about £250 per week. I called yourself and you said, to be honest, you're going to have to pay that up until the liquidation's further down the track. So I ended up paying that for about 6 weeks. And then when the liquidation was done, I stopped paying. I was still nervous about that because when bailiffs turn up, it's like very scary.
Horrible.
Yeah. And they actually came in here Friday last week and said, you've stopped paying the payment. I said, the company's been wound up. It's been liquidated. They said, well, the writ was ordered before your company went wound up. You'll still have to pay it. So then I started panicking and I rang
Stephen, was it?
Stephen Gregory, yeah.
Yeah.
Guy that's dealing with the insolvency on your behalf. And he said, pass the phone to me. I will speak to the bailiffs on your behalf. 2 minutes later, the bailiff said, we're sorry for coming. We will never bother you again. Your debt is written off. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
So it's outrageous, that, isn't it? Like a bailiff company that meant to be professional. What they do, they were just trying it on, wasn't they? And hoping that you didn't know, you know, your arse from your elbow to try and take some more money out of you.
Well, I didn't know. And imagine I'd called Stephen and he didn't answer.
Yeah.
And they're in my business with their uniforms on and their cameras, and I've got customers walking around and they're saying, right, we might have to close this up and start taking the stock. If he didn't answer, I wouldn't have known what to do.
No, but it is frightening. It's frightening. And people they don't know the rights. It's like a liquidation brings an end to those debts. Now, with regards to sort of the actual, you know, I've got to get it out there. There's a lot of paperwork, isn't there? It's a bit of a pain in the arse getting everything out, signing lots of different papers. Were you worried about the creditors meeting? I'm assuming none of your creditors turned up. How was that process actually getting into liquidation?
You know what? That part really worried me to start with because I'm not good at all this, like signing stuff online and that type of thing. And then Emily said to me, don't worry about it. I'm going to fill it in all for you. I'll talk you through it over the phone and all you've got to do is sign it. And she talked me through the process. I signed it. It went back. We had a few emails going backwards and forwards. And then she goes, all done. I went, huh?
Yeah.
It was so easy. And I didn't expect it to be like that. I thought I would have to provide, you know, all I had to actually do, which was one difficult thing, is I changed accountants about 3 years ago. And my accountant had to get in touch with my old accountants for some history. They wasn't that keen on doing the work, but Emily basically called them and said, you have a legal obligation here to send over this information. So again, I didn't even have to do that. She called them and said, legally, you have to send this information to me. Otherwise, I will send you a letter. And then they did it.
And with it, you know, aside from the bailiff, was there any other challenges with this liquidation specifically that you want to share or you had to get over?
One of the things that I was struggling with, we'll start with the banks. So I had an overdraft with NatWest, who I also had the bounce back loan with. My overdraft was 20,000. So they kept calling me saying, right, we're only going to give you till this date to start paying a monthly amount off your overdraft and start paying the arrears on your bounce back loan. And it was on your advice that I then opened another company straight away and got a new business bank account and had that sitting on the side waiting. Then the next challenge was getting the lease transferred, because I've got a 5,000 square foot unit here, getting the lease transferred from the old company name into the new company name. That was a bit stressful because solicitors charge quite a lot of money.
And expensive, yeah. It
cost me about £5,000 to get the lease transferred. But then all of that, once the lease was transferred and the new business bank was set up, I started trading a new company even before the old company had been liquidated. So it was basically dormant. And I just started building up some money in the new company account. And then the bank basically got our account overnight. And the other thing which was difficult, our credit card machine was with NatWest. So then we couldn't make credit card payments for the new company, and we had to get a new service provider. And NatWest tried to block us with everybody, but they couldn't.
But so you managed to get a new merchant terminal to get moving in the new company. Here's an interesting one, because I know a lot of people. Sorry, Darren, I didn't let you answer that one.
Yeah, so we've got new merchant services now, but NatWest did try to block us, but they couldn't.
There's a lot of companies that I assist at the moment that have built up arrears on gas and electricity. Now, how, when you went into liquidation, how easy was it to get a new deal?
Well, that's a funny thing. The new deal is still going through at the moment. And the old company that I owe this £20,000 to, which I think is like outrageous, are still providing my electric, and I'm not paying them.
Okay, so you're in the process now of transferring over the meter.
Should be in the next 2 weeks, because what has to happen apparently is the smart meter that I have here has to have a change of tenancy from one company to another. So that's what's being done.
Have you got yourself a new energy supply sorted?
Yeah.
Good man.
Yeah.
Who have you gone with out of interest, just so people know where the cheapest are?
We've got this company called Talk Telecom UK that have done me. They've taken over the phones, because obviously I have to have a new provider for the phones, taking over the broadband, and taking over the electric. So they've gone to the cheapest companies they could find and put it all under one umbrella, so I only have to deal with them.
Okay, sounds good. So one bill.
One bill, yeah.
Listen, what aspects of sort of our service at Director First did you find most helpful or reassuring? I know you've mentioned a few, but if you could, tell us some good things.
I would say the communication was really good. Even when I was thinking to myself, I don't want to keep bothering them, you'd call me, so just checking it's all right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
We're not following you. We're not bugging your thoughts, by the way.
I know, but like sometimes you don't want to keep bothering somebody. But then you call me and I say, oh, actually, as you've rang, could I ask you about this, this, and this? And that kind of puts your mind at rest. Where I suppose a lot of people are like me. They don't want to keep on ringing and keep bothering you and keep thinking they're a nuisance. But then when you call me and say, not heard from you from a few days, just seeing how it's going, that's like, oh, okay, now I can talk to you about this.
Yeah.
So mentally, that's quite a big thing, I think.
When we're going through these things, I'm my own worst nightmare. When I've got stuff going on, I'll catastrophize in my own head. I've read all these positive thinking books, but deep down, when it gets real, I'm not that positive. I start to really, really think the worst is going to happen. And so when it's this scenario, it's such a big thing for people. You've got to get those worries and concerns out. And some of them are valid. Some liquidations are, there are pitfalls that are going to happen. There are some serious consequences. Sometimes, though, it's just false thinking. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. Chris, am I going to end up in prison? Am I going to lose my house? In 99.9% of cases, that never happens. But unless you get it out of your head and to talk to somebody about it, then, you're just going to drive yourself mad. Is there anything else that you can sort of comment on, that you felt helpful or reassuring?
Yeah, so one thing I do worry about is the people that have worked for me for a long time. I was like, how is this going to affect them? Because in a way, I'll carry on paying them the same amount of money, went from one company to another. And then Stephen said to me, well, your full-time staff, which I've only got 2, will be entitled to some redundancy from the previous. So he's put all that in place. They've applied for it. It's in the process at the moment. I can't get redundancy myself because I was a director. I pay myself a minimum wage. But my staff will get redundancy from the old company. It's not going to be much. They'll get a few £1,000s, but that helps them go through this time.
And that's it. People are so worried about the staff, and just so people know that if your staff have been there over 2 years, they're entitled to statutory redundancy, notice pay, holiday pay pro rata, and also unpaid wages. And they can only start the claim for redundancy once the business enters into liquidation. Liquidator gives them a case reference number, and again, stuff that we can assist with. So it's a very, very common thing for people to be thinking about.
Yeah, so that's all going through now. So hopefully they will, a couple of months, they'll have something.
And looking back, is there anything that you would have done differently, mate?
Yeah, I'd have done it sooner. I was too worried about it, and if I sooner, I would have given £5,000 to those bailiffs for the electric company, so I'd have had £5,000 more money. Had a lot less headache. I wouldn't have had to worry, because I would say it was about a good 18 months before I should have done it.
I can identify with that, mate. You know, I was the same. It was just, you know, a lot of pride for me kept me going when really I knew it was over probably 4 months before I even started accepting it.
Yeah.
And
but it's I don't want people to think you failed.
No, yeah, mate, it's and nobody's interested. Nobody's talking about it. Like it's old news. It's like, you know, the amount of people that go through these things and come out the other end, they've learned lessons. I mean, for me, it propelled me into this industry, you know, and I think it's something that a lot of owners will go through during the business career. Hopefully only the once. But if you're watching this and you're struggling to pay your bills, listen, pick the bloody phone up. Loads of our inquiries don't go anywhere, by the way. It's like, listen, we give them a bit of advice, a bit of how to deal with creditors, how to set up time to pay arrangements, what to do, what not to do. We never hear of them again. That's all they need.
One of the well, it's afterwards, I thought my close, you know, friends, family, and people that I speak to, I'd be embarrassed to talk about it. I actually quite enjoy saying to them, "God, best thing I ever done. I got rid of all that debt. I've got a chance to start again." And they're like, "That's not very, like, morally correct." I said, "Look, it's just the banks. I haven't taken anyone for any money. The banks, you know, these bounce back loans, we weren't told really what it was about."
And the banks get their money back as well. The government have stepped in and paid the money back, haven't they?
Lost anything.
If you was, you know, what advice would you give to other business owners who might be facing, you know, a similar situation? I imagine one of them is pick the phone up earlier, but is there anything else?
Yeah, I would say, like, try and talk to people that have been through the experience. I've spoke to 4 or 5 of my friends that are in a similar situation, and they're all holding out. And I'm like, trust me, don't. All you're doing is strangling yourself. And if you think you can't carry on as you are, but you still want to do the same business with a fresh start, just make some inquiries. I can't advise somebody on their business, you need to do this, this, and this, because I only know about how my business went. Their situation might be completely different, but you know what to tell them. So I don't.
That's it. They've got to just take some advice. The earlier you understand the options, the more options you've got, and the better the outcomes likely are. Listen, now that the liquidation process is behind you, how do you feel?
I feel really relieved. It's still a struggle, to be honest, because, you know, it's not like starting a new business, because I'm in the same building. I've got this. I've still got the same stock. I've still got the same staff. I've still got the same customers. Obviously, my monthly outgoings are a lot less, but it's still not easy. Business is still tough. But now I'm strangled by all these payments going out every month.
You've got the best chance of making it a success now, haven't you?
Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm 100% guaranteed, but I've got a chance. Before I had no chance.
What are your plans moving forward, mate? You know, in the business, is there anything that you're doing differently this time? How's it look?
To be honest, I've been doing it so long. The main thing I did differently is I got a new marketing company in to take care of the advertising and the marketing. Bigger presence on social media, on Google, because the way we always used to advertise, we put an advertisement in the local paper and people. We're not in the greatest of locations. We're on an industrial estate, a bit out of the way, so people have to find us. So the marketing, using an actual proper marketing company rather than trying to do it myself, has made a big difference.
Listen, it's you can have the best products in the world, you can be the best salesman in the world, but if people don't see you, don't get them to the table, you got no chance to sell.
And now Carpet Right, that might help me. What I've ended up happening so far is I've had a fair amount of companies saying, we've got our goods from Carpet Right, but now the fit is not available because they've gone bust. Can your guys come and fit our products? Which I won't do that because they've not bought anything from. But in time, there'll be new business, I presume.
Finally, mate, thank you for sharing your story. Do you have any final words for our viewers, Darren?
I would say try not to worry and just do it sooner. If you're in that situation, do it. Well, get some advice. I'm not saying, wind your company up. Get some advice. Because I think we spoke for about 3 or 4 weeks before I'd even committed to anything. I hadn't paid any money for it, but I was getting the advice I needed.
Listen, that's what it's about. It's about understanding the options. If there's a way, if there's another way, we tell everyone don't go into liquidation if there's another route. It's the end of the end of the train line. But
yeah,
in this case and in many others, it's the right for everyone. So, Darren, listen, I really, really appreciate you coming on, mate, and I really appreciate you putting your faith in us. We're very, very grateful. We hope people have enjoyed this podcast, and we're going to leave it there. I'm just going to end the recording now. Top man, and thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Chris. Take care.
God bless you, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.